So I finally got my Nikon ZR in my hands. I actually went to South Korea for a little bit of a trip for a couple of weeks, and this was actually sent a day before I left, which kind of sucked because I absolutely would have loved to take this to South Korea. It was an incredible trip. I'll probably make a full video of that and the actual lenses and cameras that I actually used when I went there, but that's a whole separate video. We're going to be talking about the Nikon ZR and the first features that I actually activate in this camera. Now, when it comes to all the new Nikon Z mount cameras that I get into my studio, this is what I actually change pretty much every single time because they're main features that I really need to activate when I start using this, because when it comes stock, it doesn't actually have these features already activated in this camera. You have to dive deep into the settings and make sure you turn them on. Now, the first one shouldn't really be controversial, but when it comes to exposing, waveforms are my favorites. Unfortunately, Sony cameras still don't have waveforms inside the camera, except for my FX6. This is one camera function that I absolutely love using when it comes to exposing my image. And if I am using an external monitor, the waveforms is always on the screen. Now, the Nikon ZR has waveforms in here. You can change the different sizes, but you do have to go into the settings to activate the waveforms, and you can't just turn them on. You have to turn them on, but then also activate it in the actual settings itself to display it on the correct screen. Now, all you need to do is follow these steps to activate and turn on and display the waveforms onto your screen. It is personally up to you where you're going to be putting the waveforms with what specific details you want displayed on the screen. Now, the next one is a definite if you love shooting in log, and you do have to activate N-Log right from the start. So go into the codecs and change them all right now. It comes standard with the standard dynamic range, or SDR. You can change this to HLG or N-Log. I change all the codecs to N-Log. So go into the codecs, click right, and change them all to N-Log. Now, the next one I always turn on because majority of the time I'm using manual focus lenses, but even if I'm not using manual focus lenses and still using autofocus lenses, I turn it on, and that's focus peaking. Now, if you don't know what focus peaking is, it's pretty crucial when it comes to manual focus, or at least critical focus on your talent. If you do autofocus all the time, I mean, you probably don't really need it too much, but if you are manual focusing a lot, focus peaking is going to be a crucial tool for you to be able to get critical focus on your talent. Now, for this instance, you can actually display the colors as red, but it also has 3 different peaking settings. I'm pretty sure it's called low, medium, and high. I generally leave it on number 2, the medium sort of setting. It's just enough. If you do put it on high sensitivity, you don't really get a really good accurate reading of where your focal point is. But if you actually put it on number 1, then maybe it's just a little bit too less. It really does depend on high contrasting edges and what the camera can actually pick up. But if you do start seeing those little red lines on a specific point, you can actually dial it in and see your focus point. But you know, having focus peaking is amazing, paired with this absolutely massive 4-inch screen. So much easier to focus on this larger screen than it is on my Sony cameras. Now, this next one is definite and should be turned on right from the start, and that is overheating temp setting to high. It comes standard out of the box, but you can actually put the camera's temperature to high. No, this won't ruin the camera. It's designed to still be able to run with these kind of heats, but it will shut off obviously if it gets way too hot for running temperatures, but just set it to high just in case. Now, the next one is purely up to you, and it's something that I sometimes do, but majority of the time I don't. And that comes down to gamma assist, and essentially that's just slapping a LUT or a monitoring LUT directly on the back of the camera. Now, one of the reasons why I don't like doing that is because I like to expose the image in log, so I know exactly what image I'm going to get in log. Because the majority of the cameras, if you put a monitoring LUT on your camera or the actual external monitor itself, it can expose the camera for that LUT. But one of the great things about the Nikon ZR, if you actually turn on the view assist, this turns on that Rec 709 conversion LUT, and it doesn't expose for that Rec 709 conversion LUT. It will still expose for whatever that N-Log is actually exposed for. Now, you can actually upload a 3D LUT as well. All you need to do is go directly into that setting and select that very specific LUT, and this will give you an idea of what your look will be like in post-production. Now, this is the biggest reason why I don't like to use the Rec 709 conversion LUT in Sony cameras. As you can see here with the log footage,
I don't have any clipped highlights here, but then when I go over to the Rec 709 LUT, it shows the clipped highlights right there. And that's not true to what I actually want. I just want to know where my clipped highlights are, where my clipped shadows are, and be done with it. And I got my zebras set to 95%, so I know where I'm getting close to my clipping point. And it's just really annoying that it displays in the Rec 709 conversion that it's clipped, but I know that the detail is there because in the log footage, it doesn't show that it is clipped.
Now, I don't want to dive too deep into this video when it comes to exposing the image, but essentially I want to know where all my clipping points are, or essentially my two major clipping points, highlights and my shadows. And I try and expose the image as high as I physically can without clipping the whites. And then I can bring everything down in post. But I mean, it gets a little bit technical because if there's a talent in there, you need to expose for the talent, blah, blah, blah. There's so much more in depth when it comes to exposure, but having those waveforms really allows me to dial in my exposure. But then sometimes if you do have that gamma assist or monitoring LUT, this can at least give you an idea if you're exposed or underexposed or overexposed with the scene, because essentially what you see is what you're going to get when it comes to the image that you're seeing on the back of the screen.
Then the next one is the feature that I've been wanting inside a camera for a very long time, and that's 32-bit float internal. Now you do have to go into the settings to activate this right from the start. And this will allow 32-bit float internal into that hot shoe or into the 3.5 audio jack, but then also the internal microphones as well has that 32-bit float internal recording.
Now this next one is specific to the Nikon ZR or any other RED camera, and that comes down to LUTs. Now you can go to the RED website. They do give you a whole bunch of free LUTs that you can actually use in post-production, in monitoring, and even just converting the image into that color space, because that R3D is 110% RED color science. So all you need to do is put that conversion LUT directly on top and you get some incredible colors. So you can go over to the RED website, download all of those, and you'll get some incredible images. I mean, if you can shoot incredible images, that is, but I will leave the link in the description below so you guys can just click it and go straight to the website. Now the next one I turned off because this is one thing that I didn't really like, and that comes down to the self-portrait video mode. If you're filming back like this and then you flip it over and record yourself, a whole bunch of different settings comes up on the back. It's not really ideal and I don't like it. I don't like how it changes to some sort of self-portrait mode, but you can go directly into the settings and turn that one off. Now the next one comes down to touch focusing, and essentially if you just touch the screen, it'll actually take an image, and that's probably not what you're wanting to do. You're probably wanting to focus on your actual talent or the object, not take a photo. So you do have to go into the settings and turn the touch shutter off, and I actually turn this just to touch tracking instead. Now the last one's very basic, and I do this on every single camera that I get, and that's just change the name of the file. So it's one thing that I do pretty much straight away because I want to understand what camera that file is coming directly from. Is it a Sony camera? Is it a Nikon camera, Lumix, so on and so forth? I name that file directly. So this one is pretty much NZR, and then after that the numbers will be sequential or however you want to do it, but that's pretty much how I do it every single time. And that just stops you from getting a whole bunch of mixed up files and duplicates and just a whole bunch of mess in post-production if you have, specific naming conventions.
Now the second last one on the list, I actually changed the shutter mode to shutter angle rather than shutter speed. When it comes to video work, shutter angle is just so much easier, especially if you are switching between different frame rates. It just keeps whatever shutter angle you set it to, like 180-degree shutter. But if you are still used to working with shutter speed, absolutely nothing wrong with keeping it with shutter speed, but I changed it to shutter angle. Then the last one is very basic, but this is pretty much a video first camera, photos second, but I always change this in brand new cameras, and that's changing it to take raw photos. Now you can actually do raw plus JPEG, perfectly fine how you shoot. You can still shoot in JPEG, that's fine with you, but raw photos will give you the highest amount of bitrate and dynamic range to work with for you to be able to get the best image possible out of this camera. So I just change it to raw when it comes to photo image quality. Oh yeah, and I forgot, the last one, I actually changed the ISO sensitivity settings to off auto so I can do manual control of my ISO.
So anyway, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have some of those ones that you change straight away, definitely drop them in the comments below. I'd really love to know what you do when you get the camera straight away. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.